Tonight's video features 3 stories you were never meant to hear. These aren't ghost tales or urban legends. These are real encounters from real people who lived through something they can't explain. Settle in, because once these stories start, you'll feel like you're right there with them. Story 1. The chain snapped with a whimper, not a clang, as I clipped the bolt cutters. My breath plumed in the cold night air, mixing with the scent of damp concrete and rust. Pleasureland, I muttered, pushing open the sagging gate. Mark and Chloe were already slipping through, their flashlights carving hesitant paths into the maw of the abandoned amusement park. Silence, thick and oppressive, swallowed us whole. It wasn't empty, though. The wind, a phantom child, whistled through the skeletal remains of the Ferris wheel, making the rusted gondolas sway with a mournful creak. I heard the distant, rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water somewhere deep within the park, like a slow, insistent heartbeat, amplified by the dead quiet. We had to see the scream machine. It stood, a twisted metal monument to forgotten thrills. As we approached, a low, guttural groan echoed from its core. Then, a single, decaying roller coaster car, caked in grime and moss, juddered forward an inch, then back. The sound repeated, a mechanical wheeze that felt too deliberate, too alive. Chloe gasped, her flashlight beam dancing wildly. We knew we hadn't touched it. That's when I saw it. A shadow, taller and more defined than any dying tree, flit between the cracked pillars of the funhouse. It was too quick to be a trick of the light, too substantial to be imagination. A figure, dark against the already dark sky, watching us. My blood ran cold. Then, a shrill, piercing shriek cut through the night. Not a human sound, but a feedback loop from an ancient broken speaker near the main gate. An alarm? Or just the park's dying breath? We didn't wait to find out. "Run!" Mark yelled. And we did. Panic propelled us. We stumbled past the collapsing ticket booths, the distorted faces of faded mascots staring from peeling paint. Mark, always the one with the crazy ideas, yanked open a heavy, rusted metal door half hidden by overgrown weeds. "Maintenance tunnel, go!" he urged, shining his light into the inky blackness. The air was thick and stale, smelling of ozone, mildew, and something else. Something metallic and vaguely organic. We scrambled down a narrow, grime-slicked ladder. The tunnels were a labyrinth of pipes, wires, and dripping condensation. Every distant hum, every scuttling sound was magnified. Then we heard it. The distinct, heavy thump, thump, thump of footsteps above, directly over where we'd entered, followed by a metallic scraping sound, as if the door we just used was being pulled shut. We were trapped. Chloe whimpered. I gripped my flashlight like a weapon, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. A faint, flickering light appeared at the end of the tunnel, a pale yellow glow. It wasn't ours. It moved slowly, deliberately, towards us. Then, a low, raspy cough echoed, too close. We froze, pressed against the cold concrete. Was it a security guard? A squatter keeping watch? Or something worse that had made this place its home? Mark, bless his panicked heart, spotted a rusted grate high up. With adrenaline surging, we clambered, scraped, and pushed our way out, emerging into a tangle of thorny bushes outside the park's perimeter. We ran without looking back, the distant, distorted shriek from the speaker still ringing in our ears. The memory of that approaching light and the rasping cough forever burned into our minds. We never saw who or what stalked the dark corners of Pleasureland, but the chilling certainty that something was there, watching, waiting, clinging to the rotting heart of the park, has never left me. Story 2. The iron gate of Wonderland Pier groaned in protest, a sound like a rusty throat clearing as I slipped through the gap. The air inside was thick and cold, smelling of forgotten cotton candy and the biting decay of sea salt. 15 years of negligence had turned the vibrant park into a skeletal monument to joyless motion. I moved past the ticket booth, where strips of faded yellow tape flapped weakly in the damp wind. The only true sound was the persistent, rhythmic clink-scrape-clink emanating from the center of the walkway. The grand carousel. The wind was catching its broken canopy, forcing the mechanism to turn just enough for the chain drive to rub against the exposed track. It was a distorted, halting melody, a Wurlitzer played by Rust. My destination was the Screaming Kraken, the old wooden coaster dominating the skyline. But something pulled my gaze toward the abandoned Ferris wheel. It stood perfectly still, its paint long bleached gray. Then, a sharp, stressed crack ripped through the quiet. The large wheel lurched, grinding metal against metal. It hadn't been pushed by the wind. The foundation was settling, shifting in the damp earth. Before I could process the gravity of the movement, the mechanism failed entirely. The lowest cabin, which looked like it had been threatening to detach for a decade, snapped free, hitting the asphalt with a sickening final clank thud that echoed down the long, empty pier. I froze, heart hammering against my ribs, convinced the sound would draw attention. That's when I saw the shadow. It wasn't reflected light or a stray bird. It was a movement, quick and low, disappearing behind the base of the coaster where the foundation met the maintenance tunnel entrance, the underpass. This figure was too tall, too hunched, and moved with a fluidity that didn't belong to a fellow trespasser or a security patrol. It felt predatory. I started running, not back to the gate, but toward the dark maw of the tunnel, hoping the claustrophobia of the underground would offer concealment. I plunged into the concrete abyss. The tunnel reeked of mildew and diesel fuel. I hadn't gone 10 feet when I heard it. A heavy, precise stomp, followed by another, directly above me on the main walkway. They weren't footsteps. They were heavy, measured impacts, rhythmic and deliberate, like someone, or something, was pacing the length of the coaster track above, searching slowly. My flashlight beam caught a series of outdated security monitors stacked haphazardly against a wall. The screens were dark, power long gone, but one, the oldest CRT model, flickered violently, powered by some auxiliary circuit I couldn't locate. The screen showed a blurry, tilted image of the coaster's loading platform. And standing there, bathed in the sickly green light of the malfunctioning camera, was the figure. It wasn't wearing a uniform or carrying a flashlight. It was draped in tattered brown fabric, facing the camera directly. Its head was cocked sideways, unnatural. The rhythmic stomping stopped directly overhead. I heard a low, scraping sound, followed by the wet inhale of a breath being drawn. I shut off my flashlight, collapsing into the darkness, realizing two terrifying things. The infrastructure wasn't completely dead, and whatever was searching the park wasn't just a guard. It was the reason the park had been abandoned in the first place. I wasn't trapped with the ruins. I was trapped with the thing that tended them. Story 3. The chain-link fence, long torn and collapsing in places, offered little resistance. I slipped through, my boots crunching on dead leaves and forgotten propaganda flyers from Luna Point's final desperate summer. The air here was different, thick with the scent of rust, damp earth, and something metallic, almost electrical, lingering from a forgotten past. Luna Point had been abandoned for 20 years, its vibrant life bled dry by bankruptcy and neglect. Now, it was a skeletal monument to joy, twisted into something grotesque. The Ferris wheel, a colossal orange rust bloom against the bruised sky, groaned in the wind like a dying beast. Each metallic shriek echoed across the desolate grounds, raising goosebumps on my arms despite the mild evening air. Further in, the roller coaster tracks snaked upwards, iron intestines exposed to the elements, threatening to unravel at any moment. I pushed deeper, past the collapsed concession stands, their signs faded to illegible smears. A sudden deep groan rumbled from the neglected carousel of lost dreams. My heart hammered. It wasn't the wind. The sound intensified, a grinding mechanical moan, and then, slowly, one of the faded painted horses began to rise on its brass pole, creaking upwards as if pulled by an invisible hand. It ascended a foot, then stopped, swaying for a moment, before dropping with a heavy thud that reverberated through the silent park. I froze, every nerve screaming. There was no power here, no explanation for the surge of life in the dead machinery. The dread deepened as I approached the funhouse, its warped mirrors catching the last smears of daylight, twisting my reflection into a dozen monstrous versions of myself. For a split second, I saw it. A gaunt, elongated shadow in the reflection, not quite mine, flickering out of existence as quickly as it appeared. My breath hitched. Was it just a trick of the light, or had someone else been behind me? A dull, rhythmic thump. Drag. Thump. Drag, echoed from the direction of the old House of Horrors. It was slow, deliberate, like something heavy being pulled across concrete. My initial curiosity evaporated, replaced by a cold, sharp spike of terror. I needed to get out. I turned back, adrenaline flooding my system, but a quick glance towards the main gate revealed a fresh, heavy padlock on the collapsed entrance. I was trapped. The dragging sound continued, closer now, accompanied by a low, ragged cough that seemed to come from just beyond the facade of the decrepit horror house. Someone was definitely here. Someone living. Desperate, I scrambled towards a half-collapsed gift shop, remembering a cryptic graffiti mark I'd seen earlier pointing towards a maintenance hatch. I found it. A rusted metal door, hidden beneath overgrown vines. It groaned open, revealing a black void and the smell of stale water and mildew. I dropped into the darkness of the underground maintenance tunnels, my flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. The tunnels were a claustrophobic maze of pipes and exposed wiring. Water dripped from the ceiling, splashing into unseen puddles. My own breathing was a ragged rasp in the silence. Then, I heard it again. The thump. Drag. Thump. Drag. Now directly above me, echoing through the concrete ceiling. It sounded like it was following the path I had just taken. And then, much closer, the ragged cough, wet and guttural. It was in the tunnels with me, or very close to an entrance. I pressed myself against the cold, damp wall, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I could hear distorted muttering now, just barely audible, incomprehensible, and utterly terrifying. I crawled, then sprinted, through the winding passages, not caring where I was going, just away. The sounds grew distant, then faded, replaced by the frantic beat of my own blood in my ears. Eventually, I found a grate leading to the outside. I clawed my way out, bursting into the cool night air, gasping. I didn't look back. I just ran, leaving Luna Point and whatever haunted its decaying carcass behind. But knowing I'd never truly be free of the sounds, the shadows, or the chilling human presence that had finally claimed the abandoned park.